From Senegal to Sugar Hill, trace the bloodline. 100 years of brilliance through the color line. They thought the shackles broke but kept the mental chain. Langston penned the future while they legislated pain. Harlem's ballrooms birthed the cosmos in mahogany, while lynching trees still decorated southern botany. Josephine, Waker's pearls, and Garvey's Navy ships. Du Bois debating destiny with scholarship on his lips. The Renaissance was a renaissance of West resistance, fam. Every trumpet blast from Armstrong was a battering ram. They gave us minstrel shows, we gave them Sora Neal. Turned depression into art, made the fabricator real. Cotton Club excluded us from tables every set. To form the Deanest Nightly, never free from the debt. But Bessie Smith could shatter glass, shatter cash, shatter lies. Every note she sang contained a revolution in the sky. Build temples from the rubble, make cathedrals from the scrubble. Turn the margins to the center, now they study what we scribble. We build temples from the rubble, every generation double. The inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from. Fast forward through the decades, watch the pattern reassemble. Malcolm's speeches, Martin's marches, every voice begins to tremble to the earth until the structure shows its fractures. FBI was tracking every coon with every pastor, every actor. 40 acres never came but 40 minutes on a stage to reconvene your consciousness and channelize the rage. From bebop to hip-hop, the fool lines mathematical. Each generation weaponized the beautiful, the radical. They gave us Reagan out as crack and mass incarceration. We gave them Public Enemy and blueprints for liberation. The Harlem Renaissance never ended, just evolved its form. Every freestyle cipher is a brainstorm, is a storm. Where the children of the talented, the tenth that the boys prophesied, inherit the fire that the water couldn't wash aside. They tried to write us out the narrative. We offered all on text, 100 years of proof, and that we're destined. Where was next? Temples from the rubble, made cathedrals from the struggle. Turned the largest to the center, now they study what we scribble. We built temples from the rubble, every generation double. The inheritance of genius that they tried to keep us from.
All right, this is and you are Under the Groove. Welcome to Under the Groove Podcast. Happy Monday. Peace and prosperity, everybody out there, man. You coming on in? Come on, let's get it in. Let's do what we do. All right. Again, happy Monday, everybody. I like to think that everyone's Saturday and Sunday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday was to their satisfaction. They made some things happen. They were pleased with the time that they were on earth, erect, living. All right. So if you hear that means, man, everything was fine. That's a beautiful look. Don't think that it's not, man. Don't for 1 minute think that you're not in this thing, man. No matter how bad it gets, we're in this thing, man. Sad to say, this thing that we're in is this struggle, man. It's not of our own making, but we're in it. This struggle, man, has been presented to us by others, man, and we've seen to have taken hold of the struggle, so to speak. And man, we've made the struggle everything. We haven't been able to focus or get on point, do those things in our lives as Black men and women, to where the struggle is something that, it was a past thought, memory, or experience. We have not moved beyond that. And this is, I think, some of the issue with us, our community. We have to figure out, that the struggle is not for us. It's not good. We have to move or remove ourselves from it and literally put ourselves in a position that does not define our lives being attached to struggle. You know what I mean? That's just my take on it, man. This game, man, has been designed for us to be in it the way we are in it. And I'm telling you guys, we got to find a way out of it. It's not to our benefit. All right. So again, peace and prosperity, everybody up in this. Get down. Here I am. There you are. Monday, like all days, every day it's not, gonna be how we want to envision, our lives in real time, in reality, where again, the struggle is not a part of what defines us. That being said, still here we are. We have an opportunity to surpass and get beyond the struggle. But that's only if we choose to. That's only if we choose to look at the struggle as something detrimental, not necessarily something that's progressive, something that's, beneficial. Technically the struggle, by definition is not beneficial, quite sure there are things we can learn from it, but that doesn't mean that we have to always be in it. When we learn things, we're supposed to use what we learn to our advantage. You know what I mean? take it and build upon it, allow any knowledge or any experience that's to our benefit to transcend or help us to transcend from, from one level to another, from one level to another. Again, our people seem to be stuck or, actually just basking in struggle. It's like struggle is everything. Struggle is what makes us who we are. And that's not true either. We have to figure this out, you guys. And what needs to be figured out is struggle is not good for us. It's just not. We're the only ones who seem to struggle like this. And again, we've been struggling so long. My question is, where is the benefit in it? Where, because of struggle, have we evolved? How have we evolved as a result? That's not to take nothing from us as a people and what we bring to our culture, what we bring to ourselves, and what the world extracts from us or exploits as a result of, what we put before, or what we kick out to the world society. Still, struggle is there, and we can't seem to get over the hump because of it. That's the problem. That's the problem. All right. This game that they call struggle, it was created, for us to be in it. And in fact, let me just go just go all in on that. Actually, struggle is for anybody who allow or gets caught in it. We don't have, the monopoly on struggle. I mean, we, tend to have struggled more than others, but that's just not, struggle is just not something for us, for Black people. It's for anybody that gets caught in it. They find themselves struggling. That's the way the system has been designed. That's the way it's built, real spit. So yeah, I think our work is to extract ourselves from this struggle. It's a lot we need to do. It's a whole bunch we supposed to be doing other than what we're doing. That actually keeps us in this struggle. So, that being said, I got a clip I want to drop. This clip speaks to that, and you guys gonna want to hear it. For some of you, you might, the messenger, so to speak, might be against some of you guys' taste. Some of our brothers and sisters may not have an affinity for the individual who's, disseminating, this, the conversation that I want to put up, as part of this get out. However, look past that. Look past that. Sometimes we need to close our eyes just so we can hear. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when we want to hear something and we're looking to, that's a distraction, because we're more focused. Our vision is on that individual who's saying what it is being said. We'll miss it because we might have, again, a certain dislike, and even to some extent, when we have too much love for individuals, man, we tend to also allow that to be a distraction. We can get lost in the sauce, That being said, this individual, though, it's dropping signs. We say we drop gems, and jewels. He's dropping gems and jewels. And for that reason, I'm going to bring him in as a part of this get down tonight. And again, hey, we're going to talk about this struggle, man, that we need to get ourselves out of. We have to extract ourselves from this struggle. Real spit. It ain't doing us no good. All right. My Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, like most of them, I tend to want to improve. You know what I mean? Not only that, but I also take into account that, being around a certain caliber of people, a company is always a good look, for me and mine. This is what we tend to try to do. And if the company's not there, or if those types of individuals are not, present or available, we tend to find it in ourselves, good company. That's what we do. We suggest, our advice would be to do that, because sometimes we're not going to always find the people that we need to have in our lives, or who lives we need to be in, for that. Sometimes, just things occur. People got things to do. And when we want to really, boom, rub elbows, man, share thoughts, wisdom, knowledge, education, it's not always readily available. And for this reason, we tend to find it in ourselves here at home. That being said, man, it's just a suggestion, some advice for those of you who think the same way. And again, the whole objective is to find a way out of the struggle. This should not be a lifelong endeavor for any of us. For any of us, man. There's too much going on that we need to be aware of that will very well help extract us from this struggle, you know. But there that is, man. I see everybody jumping up in there. That's the way it's supposed to be. This is touching bases with the people under the umbrella of Under the Groove podcast. We are here. I see the RGCs coming up in this thing like they always do. Peace and prosperity to all you brothers and sisters, you kings and queens. Love you for it. It's all to the good. You know what I mean? It should be viewed as that or in that respect because that's what it is. It's all to the good. All right. So, yeah, I'm just preparing now. I'm going to drop this thizzle, man. Let me just jump in here right quick and pay, some acknowledgments, man, to our people, our brothers and sisters, our kings and queens. I see you, B60, man. What it do, love one. You say greetings and salutations to you, Bub, and the RGC B1. For those who are coming in or just watching, haven't commented, B1 equals black first. And we say that. We tend to push that unapologetically because that's what we mean. We need to get to us first. Anything that we want to involve ourselves in society or this world, we think that it has to be done in unity or in unison with our people. Because, hey, man, it ain't nobody else going to do none of this for us. We are all we have. We are all we have. So when we talk about beating or overcoming the struggle, it's going to take each and every one of us to do that. Can't leave nobody in this struggle, man. Again, it's not beneficial. It's very detrimental. It's very detrimental to us mentally, physically, and most certainly spiritually. This is an endeavor we have to go in together on, So that being said, again, B60, peace and prosperity, bro, to you and yours as well. Driving and listening, that's how I be, man. I'm into that, man. I could be driving somewhere. I'll turn anything positive on, and it could be a podcast. You know what I mean? And I'm listening. If I ain't got my music on, that's what I'm doing. Queen Nzinga said, man, good evening, kings and queens in the Royal Group congregation. Let's get started with this new week with love and respect. Be one, people. Black first, people. All right, Lisa Moore, we see you. Peace and prosperity to you as well, Queen. Grand Rising, big bro, blessings to you and the family. Peace and love to the kings and queens. In the chat, B1 is black first. All right, James, there you go. Hey, James, what it do? He said, hey, homie, I'm going to grow my own ganja this summer, homie. Oh, you need to go ahead and put them seeds in the ground now. I got mine up and running right now, man. Might be 5 inches tall right now, but yeah, go and put them things up in there, man. Get that thing going. And again, this is your product. It might take let's say a generation or two, your first grow, and hopefully you're able to, obtain a few seeds from, once you break it down and everything, because every now and then you'll find some seeds, even in females, and you want to put them to the side, man. And then it's that seed, that second growth or second generation that you're going to really be, you'll be able to grow it a little more organically, and I say that because some seeds us brothers and sisters use to grow our own, get down. In most cases, there are seeds that were found in a batch they got from, what I call factory stuff. And they got a lot in it, you know what I mean? So this seed or that seed, these plants have to go through a transition where, when you're growing them organically, you're flushing them out of a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? That's still encoded in that seed, but through the process, you see less and less of it. Some shit still remains where, for instance, they got in some seeds where insects don't eat the plant. And if that occurs, then yeah, that was one of them factory, get down, them seeds from that get down, because they put that in there, or sometimes they modify the seed to be like that, where it has a insect resistant additive to it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've been doing this now for good 8 years, maybe 7. Let's say 7 easy. You know, and every year is something new, something different, and that I appreciate. I recognize in the growth process that I'm, starting with these plants. And believe it or not, more and more potent every batch, every harvest, more and more potent. So that's what I appreciate about it. And again, my process is all organic. Nothing, even in terms to the water, I get a filter. You know what I mean? So, the plants, it's the chlorine, and the fluoride, all that stuff is filtered out. You know what I mean? So the water is it's a good source of water, for the plant. And it's outdoors, and I've researched that that's probably the best place or the best way to grow, is outdoors. It's out there. It's exposed to not just the sun, it's getting the full, energy, and power from the sun, but also the wind and a lot of other, things that matter in terms of its growth are right there outside. So that's what it works for me, man. I've had, hey man, trees 6 feet, 7 feet high. I have to get on the ladder, and prune them and take care of them, colas as big as my forearm, man. No lie, I got proof too. I got to the point my wife started documenting it, so I started taking pictures of this stuff, and I look back on my photos and I'd be like, damn, and my videos, I'm like, damn, huge and pretty good too, and pretty good. I got my loved one Frog. He like, oh man, I want to smoke that parsley. He go in on me, be clowning and shit, but if for us, it's okay. I mean, not okay. It's good. It's good. In our system, we're not everyday people like that. You know what I mean? Especially me, I'm not. And especially my wife, we're not everyday people with this stuff. But that being said, yeah, bro, put them in the ground, man, ASAP. ASAP. Because, the truth is you probably want to harvest them by November before, any prospect of just super cold and rain and shit like that coming into the mix. You know what I mean? By October, late October, November, you want to be able to harvest. And then, you gotta cure them. That's another thing. You have to cure them correctly, let them dry all the way out. You know what I mean? Do that upside down, let them dry all the way out, and then be ready to jar them and add that moisture. It's a lot to it, man. And for me, it was just a work in progress. I've learned over the years how to get down with this thing, man. And I've had some very, very potent trees. Very, yeah. But there that is, man. Yeah, have at it, man. Have at it, man. That'll be your product, something you did. You're gonna say, man, I only get mine from trusted sources, though. But regardless, just my opinion. I don't like how people demonize, the situation, bro. Yet they sit there with a glass or bottle of alcohol. Fuck out of here with the hypocrisy. Yeah, that's also a reality. People would turn their nose down at one thing, but to do another that's probably more detrimental than what they're criticizing you about. That's the way people are. That's the way some of us are. You got to acknowledge that. That being said, again, like I say, I started doing it because I had always this notion that anything that you didn't do yourself, then there's possibly some harm in it. It could be detrimental to you because you don't know what it is you're intaking. And that goes for everything, our food, the water we drink, all that stuff, but I did it for that reason, because I wanted to be able to produce something for my family who imbibed it, who got down in that get down, something that, was organic. A lot of our people, because they partake in this stuff from these facilities, that it could be some super potent stuff only because there's certain chemicals and stuff added to it. So that being said, once they've been in it a year or two or three, that level of euphoria is high, so when they get to that organic and that they'll be like, oh man, then I don't feel it, okay, because probably you've been in taking that stuff that's full of them chemicals. Never know. And in my opinion, there are additives, stuff being either sprayed or modified into the seed that would make it more potent. That's not necessarily natural. And again, that's something we should all be mindful of. Again, it's just like alcohol. It ain't necessarily a natural process, a whole lot of sugar. And we know what sugar does to the body, so I think that goes for a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything has something in it, until such time we as people start to say, okay, we're going to grow our own shit. We're going to make our own tequila or liquor or whatever. And we're going to do it by a process that eliminates a lot of what these big companies do, to put out this product. Probably the best thing for us, though. Yeah, and you're going to say, James, for me personally, brother Bub, the ganja has done all kinds of wonderful things for me. For real, I enjoy my one or two spliffs every night. Is just a part of my everyday get down, and yeah, that's something that can be appreciated for those of you who do that just like that. I recall before there was the dispensary get down, there was back in the day you get it by the pound, you know what I'm saying, and it wasn't what it is today. That's for dang sure. But back then, I recall, man, especially when the dispensaries opened up in terms of medicinal use, they let you know that it was grown for a specific purpose, and that meant that there was something added to the structure of that seed, man. It was modified, whether something taken from it or added to it, it was still modified. I recall, and I was doing time when this stuff really became an issue, in terms of the potency of it. It was being used for cancer patients and shit like that. People with epilepsy and shit like that. I'm like, damn, what the hell are they putting in it? It made me wonder. I recall, I grew up with asthma real bad, man. I had real bad asthma. Then they died a few times from it, and I was prescribed marijuana, to open my lungs. And but back then, and I had to be every bit about 7, 7 years old, but I didn't understand the effects. If I was tripping, I wouldn't have known, what I mean? Because that wasn't something I was looking forward to, looking to experience some type of high, so to speak. But yeah, it used to clear my lungs out, man. And eventually I ended up growing out of asthma. Like I said, I had it real bad, I had it real bad, real bad. But I ended up growing out of it around the age of 11 or 12. That was a wrap. But that was the only time, I can remember it being used for a medicinal purpose where I was concerned. Now I think some of the stuff brothers and sisters are inhaling has stuff in it that's really not supposed to be inhaled for, healthy bodies. You know what I mean? It could be affecting, the internal organs and stuff. Never know, man. So I always, think in terms of caution with that type of stuff, especially when I'm talking to, family about it. Hey, man, be careful, be careful and give them a handful of mine. Nice buds, potent, But yeah, man, I get it, man. There is that, with individuals, they have a program in terms of how much they intake. You know what I mean? Some cats, this is what tripped me out too about it. If the stuff is that good, that potent, why must you smoke spliff after spliff after spliff? I mean, you ain't there yet. I've always wondered that to this day. Big fat ones, I could recall the rosters in the community back in the day used to sell it. You know what I'm saying? And big ass spliff. And back then they used them album papers. If any of y'all know what I'm talking about, big ass spliffs. We shoot basketball with a man up at Lauren Miller, man. After the game, they pull out big ass spliff, boom, boom. It was up there, But they did it all day, damn near also. But I'm pretty sure back then there was nothing to it. You know what I mean? They didn't use all these chemicals we know they're being used today to produce, this product. But I think that was more their culture than anything else, more than just wanting to be lifted, and tripping, laughing, giggling all day. Because I've rarely seen a roster laughing and giggling, with a big ass spliff. I'd never, and what I do recall, the motherfuckers get political. They knew politics. They'll talk some politics with your butt, man. Once they even went up, so that's what I recall. Nowadays, I'm not gonna say it's a giggle, hee ha ha, type of indulgence now. Some brothers and sisters may have that, them moments where, they go up and, boom, the mind kind of opens up, and they own some higher plane stuff, that's how I can describe it for me. That's why I don't do it, often. Initially when I do, I'm kind of like not stuck on stupid or just outly paranoid, but I know that I have to just relax until it, levels off. And when that happens, that would be an hour, right? And I'll level off, and then boom, that's when my shit open up. And I tell you, I think I'm a scholar man of the highest sort. You know what I mean? Be able to talk to you about anything under the sun. Might be half most of the time, man, of what I'm talking about. Might be half wrong most of the time of what I'm talking about. But in my mind, man, hey, I see the damn world. I see the universe. That's how it affects me. But yeah, at any rate, man, yeah, everything we say this, or it's becoming a habit for me to say this, man. Anything we do should be done in moderation. Let's just think about it like that, moderation, man. We don't have to overdo a lot of what we do, but that's what we see, amongst our people, a lot of excessive, indulgence, there's no moderation, there's no limit. And, there's another saying, a man must know his limitations, So that being said, again, I tell you, to this day, it trips me out to see that even goes for drinking. I see them and they knocking around my, okay, at what point is enough, 'Cause all day, just all day drinking, nah, man, and killing whole fifths and pints in a day, like, nah, man, nah. There has to be some moderation, man, limitations. But there that is, man. I tend to want to say to each his own, but that damn, that would be so irresponsible of me, I think, because when we do too much, man, shit tend to happen. And then, ain't no telling how that's going to impact anybody other than the individual that, is going beyond board, just to it going, being excessive with that habit or that thing they like to do. So, yeah, man, do your own thing, man. And I'm tell you, see if you got a green thumb, man. I'm pretty sure I do. I used to get clowned when I first started. Oh, man, you ain't grow. Oh, man, that thing, you going to kill the plants. And I had a few issues, man. Again, though, for me, it was an experience, man. It's one that now I'm pretty confident in. Well, I do have a problem every now and then. Depends on the seed, and it's a certain way you got to plant it. Some people use the water and peroxide to get the tail to come out and all this. I learned that even when you use that process, there's got to be a certain amount that you got to do to get that thing, up and running. Do too much, it ain't nothing gonna happen. You kill it, all this. Then they got the one you just plant in dirt an inch deep. You use inch your finger, boom, drop it in, cover it up, leave it be. And that process seems to work best for me. That one works best for me. Also use the little containers with the little the peat pads. They're little peat, like moss and dirt, in these little things. You put the seed in there. Well, you hit it with water first, it swells. It's about this thin. Then when you hit it with the water, it gets about that big. You open up, drop the seed in there, and they actually work pretty good. I didn't use none this season. I just went, just strictly manual with it, man. So, and I'm seeing my results and I'm pleased. But there that is, man. It's something for you to do, right? And for me also, it's therapy. I come home from work, man. I prune them, do everything, and I'm thinking while I'm doing it. So, it works for me. So good luck with that, bro. Handle that. Yep, yep. Yeah, man. Peace and respect. Right back to you though, also, James. All love. All right, C Crypto Trapper. What it do? You say FBA, huh? All right. Peace and prosperity, man, to the FBAs, man. Peace of prosperity to the blacks, man, and same thing to the Africans, man. The thought is that, man, we all, man, should have peace and we should prosper, and along the way find some unity, man. Get to the point where we're not using these titles to identify, who we are. Truth of the matter is, we may be separated, man, by seas and generations, in some histories, but we all from the same source, man, the same get out. We are technically the same people, so it would be nice. I wonder if y'all look at it like this. That goes for the FBAs, the Black Americans, the African Americans. Do you look at it like these different not denominations but descriptions of who we are divisive in a way? Do you consider that to be that? I hear a lot of talk, especially with the FBAs now, and it's not always positive. It's like, it's almost like a religious thing where you have Christians and Muslims, and they're but they both have a God. Now, might be different gods, but still they after the same shit. You have FBAs and you have African Americans and Black Americans, and it's just always conflict. And I see that as a bad thing, not necessarily a good thing that's going to serve the people, as a whole. I get I understand the ideal behind it. FBA professing to be or claiming FBA over everything else. Yet there are some of us who have been here that were here before slavery and after the fact. Released as our ancestors were part of that get down and came up out of it. And then there were those who got here after the fact, from the islands, Caribbean islands, and or from the homeland. I get it. You want to differentiate the two because there is something to be said about what we brought to this country in terms of its structure, in terms of how it became the most powerful nation on the earth. Yeah, a lot of us tend to think that is our doing. We had a lot to do with it. Yeah, weren't for our people, who, were in this get down, this country would not be what it is. I get that. And it seems to be this thing to make sure that those who came after the fact does not or do not reap or be able to claim the benefits or, the not just the benefits, but in terms of what was laid in terms of foundation for this country. It's for us and us to claim alone. I get that. There's nothing wrong with that until it starts to, again, create division that's not healthy. That's not healthy. We can agree to disagree, man. But when we start putting these different titles, and most of them have been handed down and given to us from people not even of our demographic. So, had any of us, if any of us actually knew who we were, we wouldn't be saying none of what we say, be it FBA, Black American or African American. We would know, this is where we come from and this is truly who we are, rather than, oh, I'm FBA, I'm foundational Black American, I'm Black American, I'm African American. I think it just creates more dissension, more division, and we got enough of that, man. We got Crips and Bloods, we got Hoovers and Gangsters, we got, hey, man, we got FBA, Black African Americans, Black, man, we got all kind of division, and I don't think at this point, man, any of it has been helpful to us as a people, as a people. It hasn't helped us, and for the most part, we're all still in this struggle. None of us have gotten out of this struggle. And that goes for those who have something or profess to have some under the guise of what having something means, especially when it's told to us by those people. They say, hey, you've made it when you got paper. And that's not necessarily true. We know this. You'll never fit in. You'll never be one of them, even with money, there is a struggle you will find yourself in. Those are facts, man. I recall, and I thought it was a good lesson for her when I first heard Oprah Winfrey, because she thought she was in, and she goes someone to some foreign European area, and they didn't want to let her in the shop. Didn't give a damn about who she was. So, and didn't want to let her in. Her money didn't mean nothing. You were still FBA, Black American, African American, whatever. That's still how they saw you, or how they see us. And I thought that was a hard lesson that, needed to be learned. I don't think that it stuck with her, not just her, but, a whole lot of others. But hey, man, that's just the reality. We're in their system, in their system, as far as we're concerned, is meant for us to struggle no matter what we got, and they don't make no bones about it. We'll take what we gave you. You get out of line, watch what'll happen. You'll find yourself deeper in the struggle. You'll be back amongst us where you don't want to be. You turn your nose up at us, you know what I mean? But, you think you've made it because, you can go to a party or two or rub elbows with somebody that got more money than you. This is what we tend to do to one another. And I think that's bad. Again, it's all about how we identify, and it's been put in front of us to identify differently when we're all the same, but we don't know that because we haven't been educated properly. We don't know what our identity is. So therefore, boom, we create identities for ourselves. Well, first they'll throw them at us. And if one sticks, that's the one, we'll more than likely, ride with. That's not good either, man. That's not good. But there that is, man, and respectfully, I'm saying this, there's no disrespect intended to nobody. Be you Black American, African American, FBA, whatever, the fact of the matter is we are still in a struggle that has been designed to actually keep us in that struggle. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. Let's be realistic. And again, even for our brothers and sisters who have paper on a level that some of us can only imagine and dream about, they're not out of the woods, man. They're not out of the woods, and then it shows. All we have to do is look at how they support the people, what they say in regards to what the people are going through, to know that they know what side their bread is buttered on. They know that they are still in the struggle, even though they got buku bread, man. That's not hard to discern or to see. It's just what it is, So I think it's all a part of this get down, man. We call a struggle. It's to keep us just off balance, off kilter, man, and divisive or divided, So again, man, peace and prosperity, everybody, man. Peace and prosperity. Alonzo, what it do, loved one? All right, peace to the RGC and the U-Bub and the family. Right back to you, loved one. Good to see you here today. Good to see you. Al, what it do? You here early? Salutations, Bub and Queen and Zinga, and to everyone in the RGC. B1 equals Black first, man. And we say Black first because we're talking about, that's what we understand the hue, the color of our skin to be, not necessarily brown, but Black. Again, until we get to the point where we are able to correctly and factually identify who we are, in terms of a people, then yeah, man, we find these, these titles or, these words to describe visually, or some, in some respects culturally, who we are. Fact of the matter is, man, we're one and the same, man. Especially, and there is a difference. Those who have been here generations upon generations upon generations upon generations, we know. And then there are those who came after the fact, but still, we the same people, man. Some of you may not agree, but we are the same people, man. We come from the same source. Trust that. We come from the same source. All right. Appreciate you up in here early, Al. All right. Yeah, this is James. Hell yeah, Big Bub. That's what's up. Only do indica through my brother, though my brother, them sativas and it, ain't for me. They make paranoid and all that. I don't like it. It's indica only. Yeah, I can dig it, man. What up? What up? What up with it, Donald Davis? He said, "What up, brother Bub? Man, everything is everything. How you been, bro? Good to see you back. All right, here we are. Good to see you, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah." Lonzo said, "Man, peace, James, Al, Queen of Zinga. Hope everyone is well." There you go. Yep, yep, yep. Al says, "I do that too, bro. I do that too, bros. I'm a master grower, even though I stopped partaking several years ago." And again, yeah, I could dig that out because it's mine, but I don't indulge in it. Like for now, I can't tell you the last time I went up. It's been more than a week or two, maybe. You know what I mean? But it's not some. I don't see that as something. I don't know. It's not a turn on for me. You know what I mean? It's just not, man. It's just not. But yeah, I enjoy seeing what I wrought. You know what I mean? What I helped to nurture. You know what I mean? And then seeing it at its best. You know, that for me is kind of like an inspiration. It inspires me or it motivates me to even be that way with self. You know what I mean? Because if I could produce this and I can produce this, So that's how I kind of look at that, man. I love doing it though. Man of many hats, bro. Takes all kinds, man. It takes all kinds, Al. Real spit. Yeah. James say, real talk, Al. Hey, man, we got to be able to do as much as we can. Changing motor oil or tire, painting the house, gardening, cooking, carpentry, masonry, reading, writing. The list goes on. I was just talking to my loved one, Big Pete. I'm like, man, we shooting the shit, man. Oh, man, I've been at the house all day, man. I'm taking care of my yard. That's what he telling me, man, cutting trees and stuff. And it's, we grew up doing that type of stuff. I don't know about the generation today and the one before it, whether or not that's something they do, whether or not they know how to change a pipe under a sink, you know, um, anything, man, that, would add to, their ability to take care or, look out for, that environment they're in, that their family's in. I have a couple of issues that I don't mess with. I'm aware of in terms of how to deal with them. I don't play with electricity and I hate messing with gas. I actually had a gas oven explode in my face because I took too long to get the match down there to the pilot light, and this was in the 70s, man, my grandmother's house. And I swear, man, that messed me up, man, for a long, long time. It could be the pilot on the stove. I'm like, hey, I'm real, I, I was traumatized, man. Trust, man. That thing had boom, burnt off my eyebrows. Yeah, I'm too young then, didn't have a mustache and nothing, barely got one now, but burnt all that, like man. My grandmother laughed and stuff, but I was traumatized. It really spooked me. But that's when I knew, man, gas, ain't nothing to play with, man. Ain't nothing to play with. So I kind of treat that, man, with much respect as I do with electricity. I've been shocked before. They're electrocuted, man. I mean, like, um, it happened in such a way to where it exploded and it knocked me about 4 feet back. Uh, that stuck with me in terms of the trauma behind that because as a result, me and my brother had to go to Ralph's to get some fuses to replace. And in the midst of walking the routes from 76 in Vermont to Florence in Vermont, a shootout went down. We get caught in the middle of a shootout. Individuals lost their lives. And I don't know how man, but we running in the direction they running and bullets is just going by, man. We jumped in some bushes, man. Dude ran by, still, whoa. So that was an experience. But again, man, those two things I treat with respect, for real, for real. I treat with respect and plumbing because you mess around, man. You mess some plumbing up, yeah, man, you'll mess up some shit quick. But yeah, a lot of hats, man. A lot of hats. A lot of hats. Yeah, we hustlers, man. We're doers. We're doers. You know. Um, yeah, a hustle is a little more, I don't know, not necessarily nefarious, or just full of vice, but we're doers, man. We can get things done. We know how to accomplish some things. That's the thing about us, man. I don't think a lot of us give. I don't think we give ourselves the type of credit we do, and I mean that because again, here we are. We know what we know, but we're still in this struggle. We're still in the struggle, man. You know. So to me, that speaks to that. We're not really living up to our potential, to our skills. Our ability to do whatever the hell it is we want to do. You know. So yeah. Al says, man, everything is groovy, James. Okay, I can't explain it at all. Shit, it wouldn't help if I did. I truly hope everything is well with you and yours as well. There you go, y'all. There you go. Alonzo said, Bub, I was reading Dr. Sebi, and I think his plan might actually work. He says, eat food that's good for your cells. That sounds like it might work. Yeah. Yeah. We have this chart, my wife and I, we know what foods to eat that's good for our health, and in fact, the foods are compatible to our blood type. I think that a lot of us eat foods that are not good for our blood type. And by that, when we consume these foods, it helps to create illnesses, probably, or sicknesses, or it affects, our organs in such a way, man, where we find ourselves, going through something, in terms of our health, so we eat according to what is in alignment with our blood type. I had to give up a lot of vegetables I love, fruits, to be honest, I might sneak every now and then, and eat an avocado or some avocado. Might take an orange off my tree, you know what I mean? Eat half of it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think there's some truth to that, man. Eat those foods that are in alignment, I think, with your blood type is probably a good look also. I wonder what he has to say about that, if he wrote anything on that, but we got our the information we got in terms of what we eat that's compatible to or with our blood type from a certified individual who does this, it's our work. So that's what we be on. Like a lot of well, when it comes to meat, I don't eat meat, but I call myself eating fish. I can't eat shellfish and certain fish, certain types of fish, I had to learn that. I was disappointed in that. Man, like what? I love crab meat, man. I love shrimp, filet of sole, all this stuff. I don't eat catfish, but there's certain fish I love, come to find out, just trout and salmon is what's good for me, I love scallops. And man, I used to love that shit, but come to find out I can't eat it, Yeah. So yeah, man. And herbs. There are herbs on the list. I can't even, have herbs. I can't eat like black pepper. It's not even good for me, not good for my blood type. I'm like, damn. What's that other one? Cayenne pepper or paprika? It's one of them that I can't eat. I'm like, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. So again, Alonzo said, Bub, I was reading Dr. Sebi, and I think his plan might actually work. He says, eat food that's good for your cells. That sounds like it might work. Yeah, it's something to consider. It's something to consider. Ain't gonna hurt you. Just to even, to see, to give it a try, see how it affects you. And then you're going to say, yeah, herbs that make your cells function better as well. That's another thing. Yeah. Yeah. Sam Evans said Jamaican Dave. I said, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about, man. I used to shoot hoop with them dudes, with them brothers, man, as a kid. And that, we used to play like for a couple hours, man. Shoot, sit on the bench after, pass this big ass spliff around, man. And they was over there for a long time, actually. It was surprised how long they lasted, but hey, they never was no problem. I never knew them to have conflict with anybody. Not saying that they didn't. I just don't recall it. You know, them were some cool ones. Them were some cool ones, actually. Yeah, man. Al says we are of the African diaspora, y'all. We all come from the same place, man. That source. And it is global. Black is global, Sam Evans said, man. Al says, man, we want to be anything except our African selves. So true. So true. The labels definitely keep us apart. In my mind, we are all a part of the diaspora, the African diaspora, you know. And again, they hit us with these labels, man, you know, and we take hold of them. You know, we run with them. And in most cases, man, we don't know what this stuff really means. And just because it just in terms of conversation, we use the word Africa. And that's not the, you know, the original name of, you know, the continent, you know, the land that we actually our ancestors come from, you know. But hey, man, you know, this is what it is, you know, for the most part, you know. Sue Crypto Trapper says, man, how has Pan-Africanism benefited us? They don't even practice it in Africa. Well, you know, man, again, man, we in some stuff, man, that a lot of us we don't get it just yet, you know, but it'll come to us, it'll be exposed to us soon enough. Pan-Africanism was a thing, you know, in spite of what they told us in their history. Anytime that brothers and sisters, kings and queens over there, man, want to, you know, understanding that is necessary to have Pan-Africanism, man, what happens? What happens? And it all happens for a reason. There's an overt um not attempt, but action by many to keep that from coming into fruition, to keep that continent and brothers and sisters on that continent from unifying. You know, I don't know, man. Uh, how has it benefited us? Well, a lot of our brothers, our revolutionary brothers and sisters, you know, especially, you know, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, man, they understood how Pan-Africanism was, you know, or could be used to benefit us. And some of them employed whatever tactics or, you know, curriculum that was. Man, brothers did it. The Panthers did it. They pushed for that, you know. They understood it. They supported it. Put it like that, you know. How has it benefited us? Um, in this day and age, yeah, you can't see it, you know. It's almost as if, yeah, that does not exist. In fact, a lot of us over here would not even be, you know, mindful of what that is, you know, and how it could help us, how it could help us. You know, again, though, we're in a situation, Al just said, the effort is always to keep us separated, bro. You know, that's the agenda. That's part of the agenda. That's not the whole agenda, but that's a great part of their agenda, is to keep us divided, you know, to keep us on different planes, you know, different mindsets, wavelengths, you know, to keep us confused, not only about what we should be doing, but about each other, man. It's a given, you know, that's a given. It's not because I think that brothers and sisters do not want to understand or be a part of the Pan-Africanism movement. You know what I mean? I just don't think that, you know, but there's a lot of history that has worked against it. And there are a lot of our people who are against it. And that's only because of the conditioning, of the indoctrination, you know. It's just what it is, you know. In terms of, you know, how does it help us? Hey, man, that's an open question. You know, that's an open question. I can't speak to it, but I do understand, man, that I think if we get beyond or get past a lot of the issues that have been put, that we allowed to be instilled in us, that would be a good thing. That would be a good thing for not just Africans in Africa, you know, in the motherland, but FBAs, Black Americans, African Americans here on Turtle Island in the USA, man. It would be a good look for us. It would be a good look for us, you know. Because I think, you know, it practices, part of its practice is unification, is unity, something we lack. That would be one way it would be beneficial, or one way it could help us, you know, teach us why it's important or why it's necessary that we unify, you know. No, man. Respectfully, though, appreciate that right there, Trapper. I'll say, man, that's our global community. That's our global community. African American, African Jamaican, etc., etc. You know, we're part and parcel of that diaspora in my mind, and he's saying in his mind. And I have to agree, man. You know, in a lot of respects, man. The diaspora, man, you know. Rakufu, peace, prosperity, bro. You say, please play that video, bub, about 5 minutes at least, and let's discuss it tonight together. Which one? Which one, bro? I got one lined up right now, and I want to drop. And okay, let's drop that one. Let's drop that one. All right, here we go. Let's drop that one, and we'll get back to the comments momentarily, y'all. Let's drop this one. And again, don't focus on the messenger. Focus on the message.
You think white people hate black people?
Yes.
Or they just don't understand us?
Hate us. They understand us. Nigga, they made us. They educate us. What you mean they don't understand us? They educate us. 95% of school teachers are white in America. What you mean they don't understand us? Most of them are our probation officers. Most of them are our judges. What you mean they don't understand us? They're reading our files. They know our history. They know our history better than we know it.
Man. But they don't understand. They don't understand the struggle, though. That's what I mean. They
do understand the struggle. They created it for us to struggle. They know what the struggle does to us. Believe me. We don't know. That's why we talk about. That's why we try to embrace the struggle like it's something. That's why we put the struggle over a middle class life. You didn't get it out the mud.
Yeah.
Nigga, they know we don't understand the struggle, nigga. Nah, homie, we got it wrong. They got it right. That's why they want to keep us over here. That's why when we figure out, we try to come over here with them. Because they got it right. When we finally get our life together and we finally get right, where do we look to move? Amongst them. So how they don't understand?
All right. Man. Yeah, we conditioned, man. We conditioned. So what you think about that, Rakufu? Any validity to that? Does the struggle exist because they created it for it to exist just amongst us mostly? You know? You know. And again, man, they got us struggling to get where they are. What sense does that make, man? You know? Okay, I need to know what video you were talking about, Rakufu, because for whatever reason, I don't think there's that, but that's cool. I wanted to drop that anyway. That's one of the videos I want to drop and talk about. Al says, man, I use the term black with a huge amount of pride, though I wholeheartedly embrace the more accurate identity description of African American. All right. All right. Al goes on to say, man, we eat to live around here, not live to eat, you know? If you can control what you choose to eat, you can control most behaviors. There you go. There you go. Al asks, who ran the shack on 76? Which shack? We had, if I remember correctly, we had a few shacks on 76, man. We had one right next door to Do, man. That was back in the day. This when we first started calling ourselves gang banging, man. This was way back. One of our first shacks. We had another shack in the alley between 76 and 77 Hoover in Vermont. We had another shack right next door to my house that used to be a gas station. I don't know if anybody remember that. That corner of 77th and Hoover used to be a gas station. You know, it was abandoned or whatever, and it had a whole building, you know, and that became our shack. And we had the shack across street in Timmy in them backyard. You know, we had another shack on 76 Hoover and Fig. We had shacks everywhere, you know, but which one are you describing, Al? Yeah. And Rakufu has his comment, man. They do practice it in African Pan-Africanism. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I wish let me go this way. Oh, the weed shack. The weed shack. The weed shack. Weed shack. What street? 76, between 76 and 77. Okay, there was another shack over there where Boo and them used to live. A couple of houses going towards Hoover. There was another shack there. The weed shack. I'm trying to catch this. I'm trying to own Vermont. Oh, wait a minute, man, right there. Not the liquor store, but where the little factory was and shit. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Where the little factory was, that little brick structure and shit. There was a weed shack right there. I know what you're talking about. Through that little half alley between 76 and 77. Yeah. I got it right? Man. All right, there's some comments. I don't want to leave none of these comments out, man. So I'm going to answer them and get to them and try to move as quick as I can. Rakufu said that they do practice Pan-Africanism, all right? All right. It gave us culture a sense of being, unity, collective, economic success. And that is the description or in terms, Trapper, of what Pan-Africanism gave to us. Thank you for that comment right there, Rakufu. You said a sense of being unified or unity, collective economic success as well. It unified billions of African people globally. You know, Al says, man, we do not practice it. Most do not even understand the meaning. And that would be the meaning of, I think, Al, you're saying Pan-Africanism, you know, and that could be very well, that could be the truth, you know. That could be the truth. But I think, too, that the reason being is that, again, in terms of certain education we used to get back in the day, and I remember most of it, we don't see that anymore, you know. And when, you know, I think that when we stop allowing our, or when education cease, you know, there's a lot that falls by the wayside. There's a lot that, you know, a lot of us will forget or don't remember, you know, until it's discussed, you know. But Pan-African, what Pan-Africanism is, you know, I think it has more than one meaning, you know. That you know, that's just my take on it, you know, not saying that that's necessarily the truth, you know, but it is more than one thing, I think, you know. I think that so has it or did it do anything for us FBAs, us African Americans, us Black Americans? I think to some degree, yeah, I do, you know. My first comment was, I think it helped to unify us. It wanted to bring about this ideal of unity, not just the thought, but the realization that we all came from the same source, the same place, you know. And it did. And when you say, or when I say the same source, the same place, we all came from, then I'm saying, okay, now some of us are here, some of us are there, some of us are somewhere else other than where, you know, we originated from. And that would be, I think, in a lot of respects, the or related to the diaspora, you know. So that is, you know, but it's done, or it was taught, I think, in such a way to let us understand, okay, man, this is where this is what we are, but this is where we come from. And for that reason, there is a need, or should be a need of understanding for, you know, unity, a unification, you know, a coming together, so to speak. You know, it's hot in here, y'all, and I'm trying not to turn on the AC. All right. Rakufu, I hope that was the video, though. James said, man, take an African neighborhood and put it side by side with an LA neighborhood. You'll see the differences right away. Two different identities, same bloodline, though, bro. Yeah. They practice it all over Africa, and that is Pan-Africanism. They're really at it now. And you can I could say that we could credit that the reemergence of Pan-Africanism in Africa based on, you know, the three lions, you know, of the Sahel, and how they're trying to bring, you know, those countries on the continent together. But Singora, you know, he was one of the first, and that's who is Traore's mentor, his hero. You know, so Pan-Africanism been around for a while, but there has always been an attack against it, you know, from outside forces and some inside influences. You know what I mean? But yeah, that is, man. I think, though, you know, all the things that should matter to us, man, I find that, you know, a lot of us don't see it like that, you know. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe someone can answer that. You know, there's so many distractions or so many things put in front of us, man, to distract our what our focus should be on. Our focus isn't on the focus like it should be. Those things, man, that can actually move us along in terms of progression, in terms of unity and identity, man, are always swept to the back, you know, or covered over, or, you know, or something is always put in front of it to keep us from getting to what we need to be, you know, indulging in, or becoming a part of, understanding, learning, or being educated about. That's what I think, man. You know. All right, praise. Okay, Rakufu said, Al Thomas, you're right. A lot of black people still unconscious of its meaning. Al Thomas says, man, every other culture has a diaspora, and they fully embrace it. Man, that's the truth. Man, that's the truth. Man, that is the truth. And it comes out too. They'll show their true colors in a minute. Yeah, we might. Yeah, man, we over here, but hey, you know, I mean, they can. Some of them can give you the history. You know, they understand. They embrace it truly. Rakufu said, man, but we still should practice it. But we still practice it. And yeah, we should. We should. You say I just sent it to you. Okay, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna go get that. Al Thomas said, man, the Chinese embrace their diaspora collectively, and they're winning globally. Tell the truth, man. Tell the truth. Yeah, America not gonna tell us that truth. There you go, Alonzo. You said, man, I can't listen to that dude. But listen, so this is what my I started out saying about. See, sometimes we block messages, man, because of who is delivering the message. And I suggested, okay, for some of us, sometimes we may just have to close our eyes and not see. You know what I mean? But here, get it here. Get it here and let it register there, you know, and hopefully it goes here, you know. But if that's necessary, you know, that's something we should do, because we tend to we numb, you know, messages, man, or we don't dummy them down, we numb them, or we tend to make them less worthy just because we don't like certain individuals who may be given or speaking truth to power, as ignorant as some of us tend to be. You know what I mean? I just thought that was profound in terms of, our situation here. What we tend to wear struggle like a badge, man. Not really realizing how detrimental struggle is to us as a people. We wear it. We're proud of it. We're proud to be in a struggle, man, that is detrimental. I don't know, man. So for me, it was more the message rather than who I was receiving the message from. That's something we should work on as a people. I get it though. There are a few people, and I have no affinity for them. I have no affinity for them, man. That's not to say if they're spitting truth to power, putting down something, which might be just odd for that individual, because I know why I might not, like them. You know what I mean? But even when that occurs, okay, I have to, I'll turn away and I'll listen. I'll listen. Because I think that there might be something, if I allow myself to just be in my state of mind I am about that individual, I'm gonna miss something. I'm gonna miss something, man. And it is until after it's only until after that person is done speaking will I be able to realize whether or not he said something profound or beneficial, or whether it was just some more of the same. So that, I just asked that we check that out. All right, hey, Rakufu, you said this is the link to the video, bud. I don't see a link. Okay, maybe it'll come through though. Lonzo said, I can't listen to that dude. All right. What about LeBron James? Yes, there's truth to what he said. Okay. Rakufu, this video link. James said, man, but right there applies to all the house ninjas and sellouts and busters leaving the community to go live with people who don't even respect you. But that's a disgrace. You'll never catch me in the hills. And yeah, but see, there again, this is what's taught, or this is what is conditioned into us, indoctrinated in us. The thought that, hey, man, if we elevate to their level, we'll be them, or we'll be accepted by them, or we'll be cool. We won't be viewed as a threat, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, there's that, man. Is it right? I don't think so. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong for our people to look at it like that, knowing what we know. But again, you just said it, we have a lot of people who don't care one spit about that. They just want to be there. They would rather be there than not, not really understanding, man, these people hate us. They hate us, and still they set some in place to where, a lot of us tend to think that they're okay with us. They're cool with us. They marry into our families. They every now and then say something in public good, about us, or so we think, but the fact is, man, we are a threat. We are a threat, and that's how they view us, man, as a threat. Y'all be surprised, man. So I make it a point to go and check out some of what he says, man. It's maybe once a week, Charleston White. And I find a lot of shit that be like, damn, man, that's so on point. And then, but there's always a conflict. But homie, why are you so damn ignorant? I don't know if that's just his persona, if that's that persona he wants to have on social media, but some of the stuff he speaks about, it speaks to a lot of what either ails us or makes us better. You know what I mean? So this is why I tend to try to listen to him and get out of my own way in terms of how ignorant he can be, or the things he says sometimes to make it could just wipe away everything he said that was so profound and positive, you know. So I get it, man. Yeah. But and so James, you say he disrespected us like an MF. And are you referring to what he said about Crips, Bloods, Hoovers, gangbangers? Is that what you're referring to? Let me know, bro. Sam's Evans says, but what I'm noticing, Big Bub, the FBA only goes after other blacks from other parts of the world. They call them tethers. Yeah, that's what we hear a lot of, right? I get it. But I've also heard where FBAs go in on those of us who have been here, like I said, generations, about calling themselves Black Americans or African Americans, you know, and not, you know, the foundational, you know, but saying, oh, hey, I'm African American, you know. It seems as though they may have an issue with that as well. My point being is this, and it's real simple. I think we have to get away from these labels, man, because these labels are what continues to divide us. You know, we have so many. You know, we got some people still call themselves or refer to themselves as Negroes or as color. You know, we got some people that call themselves the N-word. You know, I mean, these labels, man, are I think part of the problem, and we learn this from them people. We learn to point out differences or create differences amongst us, you know, that create issues between us. You know, I think that's the problem. That's the problem. You know, again, you know, Brother Al says, man, I identify with being African American, and I get that. I understand why. You know, he's talking about his lineage, his heritage, where he come from, you know, part of this diaspora from there to here. Okay, get that, you know. FBAs are speaking, you know, initially totally about here, you know, laying claim to this because this is what it is. This is where we were before slavery, you know, and all these, you know, other issues that actually exist that can be points of references that can be valid, you know, they have great points, you know. So I get it, but it's still, these are labels that are continuing to, you know, divide us. I think that's, again, that's part of the problem, some of the main problem with us. You know, it's too much division. We don't know how to agree and disagree, you know, agree to disagree and still keep respect, you know, love, unity, you know, about ourselves, man. That, you know, so that's the problem, I think. What's the name of the video? Okay, let me go find that for us right quick. Transfer 9. I think I seen that video actually too. A conversation with Mumia Abu Jamal, okay, in a dying empire type. Okay, let's go find that. Okay, let me go find that right now. It's for 9, a conversation. 1 second, y'all. Mumia Abu Jamal in a dying empire. It should come up with that part. All right. 1 second, y'all. Let's see if I can get that. Aha, I found it. That thing, 30 minutes there. What you want, the short? Or with hold on. I'll find it. It's gonna be this one then. All right. Hold on. I think that's the one. I think that's the one. Let me know if I got the right one, bro. I feel sad for my brothers that engage with clowns like him in Rat 100. What we talking about right there? Let me go. I missed some. All right, first let's go to this. Let's do this video, all right? Let's see what's going on. I hope this is the right one. You got to let me know, bro.
From his cell on Pennsylvania's death. And now, from his cell on Pennsylvania's death row, a commentary from Mumia Abu-Jamal.
One empire unchanged. Increasingly, the U.S. presidential election looks like a political contest between the same old thing and the same thing with a new face. For both presidents possible have sworn their allegiance to a husky nationalism that imposes military and political hegemony over much of the world. While, of course, differences exist between both major political parties, these differences are more of tone than of substance. Both want to wield the big stick as they launch threats hither and yon, invoking the power of the newest Praetorian Guard, the military, to punish those who won't do penance to their domination. How many people are knowingly voting for relentless imperialism, more war, and slaughters to sate corporate princes? Behind the rhetoric and oratory of each and every candidate is the ceaseless march of businesses, listings that could easily echo the New York Stock Exchange. Instead of democracy, freedom, and peace, the practiced ear hears Lockheed, McDonnell Douglas, and Raytheon. For while families suffer irrevocable losses of sons, daughters, and fathers, and cities suffer from sinking schools, spreading foreclosures, and lessened tax bases, defense industries grow fat on the wealth of war. And the institution of empire is a virtual machine for war. For as we've seen in Iraq, any old excuse will do. With the connivance of the corporate press, any leader abroad can be painted as the necessary demon who needs to be taught a lesson by the forces of democracy. So meaningless is that term that it has come to mean the status quo of hierarchical obedience to those in power instead of the leaders obeying the will of the people. The people are but cannon fodder for the empire machine, and presidents are but managers of those machines, cogs in the wheels of destruction. So, while we dizzy ourselves with high expectations of change, do we not wonder what difference it makes if the manager be black or white? Isn't it more important to stop running the empire machine? Isn't it best if we renounce wars for oil and global domination? Isn't it better if the country doesn't install puppets around the world? If we learn one lesson from history, it's that empires rise and empires fall. From Death Row, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal. These commentaries are produced.
All right, there you go. And again, I hope that was the right one. Empires rise, in the dying empire. And they say that's happening. They say America is in its death throes. It's on his last leg. It seems to be a historical reset about to take place. We don't know. But I look at it like this. Say, for instance, man, that is the case. We have to be very mindful what's going to come as a result of that. You know, you're talking about chaos. And I think a lot of people really trust and think that from chaos comes order, but how much chaos, to what extent will the chaos, exist or be in the midst of the people? What type of suffering will the people go through before order is restored? And then, even if that's the case, what type of order now are we going to be under? I just wonder, man. I wonder. I need to get to see what's there. Oh, you say with a split face. I think that was the one I did, though. The one with a split face. I hope that was the right one, bro. No. Ah, there you go. That motherfucker long. Okay, let's go there then. I'm gonna play that one. Nah, that's commentary. 10 days ago. All right. We're gonna do that. Hold on.
Or Brad Pitt in Fight Club level of.
All right, this one you talking about, Rakufo.
I recently had a 30-minute conversation with Mumia Abu-Jamal to talk about Frantz Fanon.
Hold on. I want to see this. The radio is an instrument of mass struggle. It has been transformed into a revolutionary implement as powerful as the gun. And that quote is by Adolfo Gilli. Introduction to a Dying Colonialism by Frantz Fanon, April 1965.
I recently had a 30-minute conversation with Mumia Abu-Jamal to talk about Frantz Fanon, the revolutionary writer and psychiatrist whose work on race and anti-colonial resistance is more relevant now than ever. We cover imperial violence, ICE, the Black Panther Party, the dystopian ramifications of AI, fear as a tool of empire, the abject failure of artists and culture producers to meet the moment, and the irreversible psychological effects of reading The Wretched of the Earth. Mumia is a veteran Black Panther who joined the Philadelphia chapter when he was just 15 years old as the Minister of Information. He's also an award-winning journalist and author of numerous books while incarcerated. Mumia will be 72 in April, and he has been in state prison since 1982, despite being both factually innocent and legally not guilty of the crime he was accused of committing. He continues to suffer elder abuse and medical neglect in the prison system. Locked in a cell for 23 hours a day, Mumia spends his time either writing his PhD dissertation on Fanon or performing autopsies on this dying empire through scathing commentaries and radio broadcasts on prison radio. We only scratch the surface, but underneath Mumia lies the unshakable bedrock that is Frantz Fanon.
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Frantz Fanon was the real deal Holyfield. And I say that because no one can read him, whether you're talking about The Wretched of the Earth, A Dying Colonialism, even Black Skin, White Masks in, certain parts. But you cannot read him without your brain like doubling in size and exploding, because this cat, he was a psychiatrist and he knew how to feed the brain. He knew how to reach people and hit them. And he actually had a technique for it, and he writes about it in The Wretched of the Earth. He calls it combat literature. And I don't remember reading that term anywhere else, but he intends to be provocative. And more importantly, he is a dedicated thinker, scholar, revolutionary, activist, psychiatrist, who relies on truth to transform consciousness. So he spits a bitter truth. And I think it's in Black Skin, White Masks where he says, I don't want my voice to be beautiful. I want it to be harsh, right? And so that's how he writes, right? He doesn't play a lot of games that writers, I'm going to, hug you.
Hey, Rakufo, this is the one, correct? Let me know. I'm gonna get a bar of this though.
You tenderly, and then let you go. This guy says this is what this is, and if you go to the Wretched of the Earth, remember he opens the book talking about there are two different species of humans in the world: the colonized and the colonizers. Like, wow. And it begins from there, and it never ever stops. And this was his remarkably short but powerful life. You ain't got to enjoy it because his voice is harsh, but you will learn and you will look at the world differently. That I can tell you. That I will promise you.
I think I was 22 the first time I read Wretched of the Earth. And as I stepped through that book, it honestly felt like I was stepping on landmines.
Yeah. We're going to leave that in the cut, though, man. Yeah, Rakufu. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't think a lot of people really ready for that conversation. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people really ready for that type of conversation. I don't think YouTube is really ready for it. Especially when we have to, at the core of the discussion is truth. Truth in terms of, what it really is and what needs to be really done in order to, I was saying earlier, to extract ourselves from a struggle that ain't gonna just let us go. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay, let's get back to it. I'm gonna give about 5 minutes though. Let's get to this thing.
Destroying the self-hate that had grown inside myself, being a brown person growing up in a white suburb, that sort of self-hate that calcified.
And, after later and thinking about that when Huey P. Newton.
I wanted to ask you what went on. How did you hear about him, and what was your initial reaction to reading him?
My introduction to Fanon was after I joined the party, and Huey P. Newton issued the order to all Panthers across the country that they must read The Wretched of the Earth. I didn't know then what I know now, that when the party was formed, when Bobby and Huey got together in Oakland in October of 1966 and began thinking about forming an organization, Bobby gave him a copy of The Wretched of the Earth, and he writes later in his book that Huey read the thing 6 times. 6 times. And, after a while, when you're reading it like that, you stop reading and it begins reading you. I mean, it's in your consciousness. Right. Most of the ideas that he framed in terms of ideology, politics, the lumpen, all of that came from Frantz Fanon, word for word, because it seared his brain. Here's the problem with black skin, white masks. In my study and read and reflection of black skin, white masks, and then The Wretched of the Earth, A Dying Colonialism, and other works by Fanon, I find that the man who wrote Black Skin, White Masks is not the man who wrote The Wretched of the Earth. Why do I say that? I say that because scholars have shown that Black Skin, White Mask was supposed to be his doctoral thesis. His advisors, who were doctors, who admired his remarkable brilliance, talked him out of that. And he did like a standard doctoral thesis on a medical problem and a psychological problem. But the man who wrote Black Skin, White Masks was a man wrestling with himself. He writes in that book, what do I care about black nationalism? That's not me. I am a Frenchman. My culture is French. My language is French. France, this is a quote, a direct quote, France is my religion. I can hardly repeat that word repeat that line without laughing because it's so preposterous when you read The Wretched of the Earth, because he is another man when he writes The Wretched of the Earth. He is no longer a Frenchman. He speaks French because that's his, the language of his youth and of his education. But in his mind, he is a combatant against the French Empire. When he wrote Black Skin, White Masks, he was what he would call a colonized subject. He said Martinicans went to France, almost like, for them, it was almost like going to heaven. Except when they met French people, they learned that they weren't who they thought they were. Because the French are the French, and you're either one of them or not. And if you're coming from their colonial possessions, you are not regarded as French, especially if your skin is dark or you're brown or black or yellow.
Ain't that something? That says a lot about a lot of us, huh? A lot of our people, we tend to think like that, but we aren't that. We aren't them. We are also a colonial possession. Some cold shit. And it's not just the French who are devils in that regard, just not, UK, the so-called white American, shit, Italy, Germany, all of them. It kind of remind me of that movie, Rakufu, you asked me to watch. Where the African brother and sister, they were talking about was getting to France and it being like heaven when they got there. They want to leave the squalor and the poverty to go to, to something better. And I was saying, I think I was saying to my wife then that, yeah, they gonna be shocked, get over there and find all them, them Wayopies ain't got no love for them. Or it's gonna be, you're gonna be in a worse state. For a lot of them, you end up in a worse state. But damn. Now I'd like to know, Rakufu, what brought this on? What made you think about this particular clip with Mumia talking about Frantz Fanon? What spurred this thought, man? Or you saying, hey, this is something we should put on the Get Down, and then let's discuss it for 5 minutes or so. I'd like to know, what that was. All right. If you guys want 5 more minutes of this, that's fine by me. I actually like listening and stuff like this. But I like to know what your thoughts are on that, and I'll wait for it. I'm gonna go back in for about another 5 minutes. It wasn't, but it's 30 minutes long.
But think about it. So the consciousness that wrote that was the tortured consciousness of a colonized subject. When he broke out of that, when he was on his way to medical school in Lyon, in France, on the French equivalent of the GI Bill, his mind was exploded by a child who looked at him, and the little boy looked at his mother and said, Mama, Mama, un nègre. Mama, Mama, a nigger. And it blew his mind. And he was never the same. And
And I wanted to just jump in and say that that's the result of a lot of them who initially think, they're accepted and they're okay. They get shot right back into the present, man. As soon as that real face or the real attitude, the real demeanor, in terms of how they see it and how they think about us comes out, and then the whole world comes crashing in, I think though the coldest part about that, a lot of them actually go through that, especially a lot of them here actually go through that. And rather than, understand that, they're not a part of this system or the structure to denounce it, they'll put on, a different face and be like, they'll suck it up, and tend to act as though nothing ever happened. They will say, oh man, that don't hurt me. They remind me of the Hodge twins, They say, oh man, how can oh man, that don't matter, man. What people call, oh man, don't worry about it. You know, they are the type of individuals who have went through or experienced racism, and rather than deal with it head on, you know, to want to eradicate it or whatever the case may be, they accepted it and said, okay, we'll just be better ninjas to them. You know, we'll just be, you know, we'll be so nice and so, you know, agreeable that they'll stop seeing us and seeing us as black. I think that's how they look at it, man. But that's the reality. I said, man, Oprah went through that, but I think Oprah is one of those who went through that and said, you know, it's okay, I'll suck it up, because there are other white people who are my friends, and they don't think like this, and they're not going to treat me like this. You know, there's so many of us, man, that go through that, and that's sad.
He writes about that in Black Skin, White Masks. He said, my body was shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I tried to pull it all together, but it was a new me pulling it all together. And he was traumatized. His dream of what he thought France was not. And when he went to Algiers and he saw how his fellow doctors and psychiatrists treated the Algerian people, he knew what side he was on. You know, he not only tried to transform that medical system in Algiers, he joined the FLN and he worked underground, but he taught them how to survive torture. And, you know, and he treated torturers. It's in The Wretched of the Earth, you know, his medical files. So this extraordinary man, you know, was not the same man. So read Black Skin, White Masks with that knowledge and that caution, and it will speak to you.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot going on, y'all. A lot we don't even touch on that we should, in terms of what we're really up against, man. I think things have been done in such a way to us that, again, I've said this before, that should the revolution actually ever take place, that we would initially be at odds with our own, with those who agree or who have accepted or who claim to be part of the system that keeps us struggling. You know, it would be with them first. That would be their first line against us. You know, you know, that's scary, man. To think that, okay, such a thing should occur. That's what, you know, that's who I would be up against first. But I see it already. You know what I mean? Because we have those even on our level. Those who want to hurry up and jump to the middle class or beyond, they're on our level, but they already think as though they're up there. You know, that they're part of that get down. You know, that's who the struggle, in terms of breaking out of the struggle, it will be against them first. And that's scary. That's scary, man. We got a whole lot just like that. They're just like that, you know. And for him to be able to write that about himself, talking about France Fanon, that's deep, man. You know, I you know, to say, you know, that takes a lot for an individual to do. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it, you know, from our perspective, you know, in terms of how we, you know, live life, go through life with this struggle, you know, ours is on a different level. For those of us who went through what we went through and now who are now saying, in spite of whatever the blowback could be, or, you know, how we be viewed or approached or dealt with as a result of, we say, man, this is some bull. And, you know, to hell with all this, you know, F all this, you know what I mean? Straight up, you know, it don't mean it's any good. It's part of the enemy's plan, you know, and anybody down with it is a sellout, you know. That takes a lot for individuals, I think, you know, because now we're going against the system within the system. You know, we're bucking two systems now, you know. I don't know. Crazy, man. Crazy. This brother is 72 years old, Wakufu, and he's still pushing, sitting up, man, falsely accused, been found, technically and legally not guilty of the crime, but there he is. There he is. And I can imagine them saying, hey, man, just renounce everything you sin, we'll let you out. Now, if that ain't integrity, man, I don't know what is, man. If that's not character, I don't know what character is, man. 72, man. He trying to destroy the struggle from within the belly of the beast. Full mode attack. I love it. Lonzo said, man, I have to keep my house in order and deal with the outside world. Yeah. You're going to say they destroyed so many of my people. Oprah is down with the Epstein crew. No doubt. No doubt. Again, she's just one, man. Most of those who are in that limelight that we tend to, some of us, maybe most of us tend to like, are those people, or those type of people. When I think of, like, in the news, in the recent past times, a month or so ago, Nicki Minaj, and how she came out like, hey, man, and I think she genuinely strives to be a part of that cadre, that not just the party, not just the MAGA scene, but the people. That I think that's her real self speaking. You know what I mean? Why is that, man? Why do our people tend to be this way? Is the struggle the reason? You know what I mean? How bad is it? Is it that bad? Yeah, it's that bad, man. It's that bad. And like I say, we see it on our level every day. We see it on our level every day. Exactly. We have brothers and sisters every day striving, man, to reach where they are, man, to be accepted, as one of them, They'll sell us out, man, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Yeah, I'm going to check that whole thing out, man. No doubt about that, bro. That's a given. Again, so for me, that's the type of stuff I actually enjoy. Excuse me. Not only that, but I know that the more I imbibe of that, if I could use that in that respect, the more I ingest to that, man, the more I would become what they call radical. I'm tending to think that, I'm beginning to think that that's what's needed. Radical approaches, man, to this. Sounds like you're leaning toward the idea that, to this issue we have, this theme we are called the struggle. I really think that, and I don't think that just, I think I see that also in other individuals, other people, and I tend to try to only want to indulge or, interact with individuals who think a certain way anyway. I've been where a lot of cats are right now. I've been there, man. I know what that is. You know what I mean? And that was radical, right? That was radical, man. Just that whole lifestyle. How I tend to think now, and in terms of what I think now, as to, what's best, not just for myself, but my family also. It's a radical thought, man. My actions sometimes or at that, on that precipice, man, of radicalism in terms, especially when dealing with people who I consider to be the enemy, other demographics. I don't tolerate nothing from none of them, you know what I mean? And if I have to become radical in terms of dealing with them, I will. I think, though, a lot has to be taken into account. Who am I jeopardizing, who will be impacted as a result of, whatever I choose, you know what I mean? And were they ready for such a thing? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be mindful of that, bringing people into, my way of thinking, because it's not for everybody, some, we were just saying, are cool with where they are. They only want to go up there and hang out. They're not looking, to extract themselves from a system, that keeps us in this state of struggle, man. And even if it's not them who are trying to ascend and go and hang out with others, their family or their family is, because in most cases you don't get to take the whole family. And again, your standing or your seat is precarious. You know what I mean? It's not, there's no guarantees. But so I'm mindful of that, man. Because, who am I going to impact? Were they ready? What did they see the world, as I see the world, or some of them okay with just struggling, every day. I know I'm not, I know I'm not. I know I'm not cool with, not me just per se, but just, my kind, living the way we live. It messes with me. But anyway, that's to get out, man. I listen to that, and I do imbibe, or I do, involve myself in that type of stuff, man. And I think that for me, I'm real mindful, okay, how much I consume, for lack of a better term, Anyway, man, Rakufu said, man, maybe we can start GoFundMe for Abu Mumia Jamal first. Just $1 a piece from the RGC could help with his basic cosmetics. Too, Alonzo said, be careful of people acting like they know. We can barely read, but you on the internet talking about street business. That's police stuff. Rakufu. And again, free Abu Mumia Jamal. Yeah. And we got a lot of brothers. We have a lot of brothers, Rakufu, like that. You know what I mean? Or who are evolving and are developing just like that, who are also just like in his or going through the same circumstance, incarcerated, man, wrongfully, incarcerated even after, let's say, they have grown spiritually, you know what I mean? In terms of identity, ideology, the whole nine, that should be, helped as well. You know what I mean? We just got so many brothers and sisters in that position. This brother though, Mumia he's a teacher. One of, I think, a teacher we need to have on the street. Somebody we need to be lacing us. And while he's there, he should still be, educating us, But we have these types of brothers and sisters, man, all over the country. All of them are not incarcerated, and all of them are not willing to speak out, in such a way, they're not in that mess right there, but they're there. They exist. And I think that support should go to all of them as best we could give them, as best we could give it. Yeah. Whole lot of work, man. Whole lot of work, man. You say facts, bub. Alonzo said, Rakufu, they got that, bro. Rakufu said, maybe we could start. Okay, read that. Alonzo said, be careful of people acting like they know. Alonzo said, you can barely read. You can barely read, but you on the internet talking about street business. That's police stuff. And again, free Abu Mumia Jamal. Rakufu, thanks for showing that you did. Thanks for showing that. Thanks for showing what you did to the RGC. Powerful. I think that something like this, yeah, we should be able to go into that, man, in such a way to where we get the whole 30. I don't mind. Shit. I don't mind. I want to be able to not draw in but that's also a point. Draw in those we can get in, but also maintain them, keep them, and let them get this stuff. You know what I mean? If we show the whole 30, man, hey, let's bring some others to the table, man. Let's share it with them, man. Let's get them involved in this get down. You know, we don't want a piecemeal or people with information like this. So I get what you say. I agree, man. That little bit really, it just wets the palate. You know what I mean? There's so much more, you know what I mean, for us to now in this regard imbibe on if it's to where, yeah, man, we could drink of this in its entirety, 30 minutes. I have no problem with that. I like to go into this type of thing, knowing that the RGC, man, and any of those who aren't or who have yet to, confess to understand what the RGC is about, whatnot, to participate. Let's do it. I think it's probably the best thing for us. Content like this, it helps to, drive the conversation. And that conversation, which we lack, man, we lack communication conversation. It helps to build, these processes, these thought processes, this type of material, this content, it drops the jewels and gems that we would love for our brothers and sisters, our kings and queens to pick up and take with them and share, so I don't have a problem with that, bro. If it don't seem, repetitive or redundant, I'll come in tomorrow and we'll play that thing for the whole 30 minutes. If everybody is cool with that, let's get it in. And then, maybe, shit, every day we can do that, anywhere between, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, pieces like this, man, that's going to let the individual who has a message to tell, something to give us, speak for that time. And then we go in afterwards with the discussion, with dialogue as to whether or not this is helpful to us as a people. What can we extract from it as a people, and how can we use it, for the people? I don't have a problem with none of that, man. All right. Just so you know. All right. Alonzo said, man, America done raised all these soft ass dudes. It's sad losing their masculinity for the bag. Yeah. Rakufu says, man, it's fundamentally thought provoking. Yeah, Alonzo, I hear you, man. And we have to get to the point where, again, man, so I'm to the point where I say what I say, but I don't, because I still, in terms of, how I conduct myself, I still apply certain protocols to my get down. I haven't named nobody in terms of who we know is doing this stuff that hurts us. But I'm again, man, it almost seems like I'm reaching that stage where it's becoming radicalized. I'm like, all right, man, it needs to be said. Hey, man, so and so and so, you guys are hurting us, and this is how. You know what I mean? I don't want to do it in such a way that I want individuals to feel offended. Yet I know I could say it any kind of way, man. It'd be all above board and respectful. They would still find offense in it because I'm naming them. I'm calling them out on stuff they know is wrong. So, I'm just, I'm trying to figure this stuff out, man, because I don't want to alienate brothers. I don't want to, create unnecessary enemies, not something I really worry about, but I think that there's enough dissension without me getting into that fray. However, some of this stuff, man, needs to be called. Most of this stuff, all of this stuff needs to be, addressed, and I'll find a way, and with the help of the RGC or anybody else, a way will be found to where we can, that can be put before those individuals, or at the very least, the people can hear the message, So, yeah, man. Alonzo said, man, ain't no amount of money can get me to sell my mama and little brothers out. And again, that's what that shit boils down to. If we all just really come and call a duck a duck. If any of our brothers and sisters is doing this kind of stuff on social media, the way in terms of what we know is on social media, that's a disservice to your mother, your family, your kids, your brother. Come on, man. It's like, okay, nobody matters. But that individual who wants to influence others to watch this, and it's not drama. I'll call it detrimental material. This stuff can get people done. you know, in more ways than one, you know. Yeah, it's a bad mix, man. It's a bad mix. I'm passing through social media today and I see where they bringing up old issues. You know, the young brother just got out. You know, both of them young brothers just got out, and already their names are back up in BS already, man. They ain't took no time. You know, and everybody's using it as content. You know, everybody say, hey man, it's out there, I'm gonna use it. You know, it's sad, man. It's sad, you know, but it's gonna be that, man, until, you know, changes are made. People start to address this stuff, man. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out though, Rakufo. Lonzo said, man, I used to like until I found out they sell souls for crumbs. Yeah. You have to keep my house in order and deal with the outside world. They destroy so many of my people, man. Yeah, you know, those of us that know, man, the damage we created, man, we know. Eyes are wide open, man. Rakufu said, man, I thought how much of a soldier Abu is. And at that age, how he is holding up. Ain't that something, though? Yeah, Rakufu said, I watched it last night and thought about, you said you read him in a pen. Yeah, Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, and Black Face, White Mask. I think I read 3 of his books, man. But I tell you guys, we had literature, we had a library, man. You know, and sad to say, some of what I read, I've forgotten. You know, you mentioned it, I can tell you, yeah, I read that or not. You know, and then I think about what I took from the book. But we had a library, you know, back in the day, this before they took porno magazines from us, you know, had a gang of them, right? Not ashamed to say that I had hundreds of them. You know, it got to the point where, you know, all right, man, what the hell? So I started collecting literature, you know, just, you know, literature, man, you know, conscious of Black literature. And I built a sizable library in my cell. Rules changed in the prison where they took porno magazines from us. And, you know, when we got the word it was coming, that they were taking that and tobacco, you know, I had to sell it down my loved one, man. So we you know, my homie Tank, man, you know, we trying to figure out how to make sure we keep our stuff, you know. So we found a cold spot. Anyway, long story short, man, we put all that there, man, you know, with our Kisus, you know, we kept all that stuff. This nosy CO female found on the fluke too, and that's how it happens most time. Found everything, the magazines, the tobacco, and the Kisus. And we had in excess Kisus, maybe 20, you know, fully ready to go, nice, you know, flats and ice picks. And then we had what they call weapon stock, over maybe 200 magazines, you know, cans and cans and cans of tobacco, you know. So anyway, they got discovered, it was all gone. And then next, I was mad, you know, we were both kind of mad because we thought about, okay, now we're gonna book her because she stumbled upon it. She didn't intentionally, you know, so we thought we're gonna book her, you know. You know, we came to our senses and like, boom, sitting up in there, and I seen all these books, man. And I'm telling you, it was over maybe 60, 70 books. And I mean, not little paper thin stuff. I mean, like Frantz Fanon size, you know. And that, you know, shit, it was on and cracking, man. We read every day. And the homies, you know, hey, did you save any of your money? Nah, man, but here's this book. Check this out, you know. And then that became that, you know, the sale became, you know, we were purveyor of, you know, Black literature. And, you know, that's what we gave the loved ones, you know. You know, we just started reading books, man, just more and more books. So that's what I remember about that, man. Frantz Fanon was one of the best books we read, man. I also like Richard Wright, man. He was more fiction, but I thought his shit was very, very powerful, man. Native Son, I think that, Invisible Man, you know, shit like that. Very powerful stuff. You know, all that shit, man. We read it. But yeah, it'd be good, man, if that was something we seen, on social media rather than what we see on social media, man. Brothers selling us out, man. I'm gonna watch that though tonight. In fact, it's just 30 minutes. There's nothing. I'm gonna watch it, and again, I'm gonna drop it tomorrow, guys. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, I got my text, y'all. And Alonzo, and I appreciate this because it's real spit. If you ain't got smoke for the government, I ain't even gonna, F with you. And that's another thing we see, right? We all got smoke for each other, but not for the ones where the real issues come from or who we should have a real issue with. That's the tell of the tape right there, man. That being said, you guys, let's shut it down, man. I will be here tomorrow at 6:15. And, my prayer, man, is that, you guys go with peace, man. We had that grand rising in the morning. When that occurs, man, let's get it in. All right, let's do what we do. Let's make sure our day is peaceful as much as it is prosperous. All right. So as we say, love yourself, man, so that we can love one another. Take care of yourself in order for us to give support to those who we may need taken care of. All right. That being said, power is in the people, y'all. Power is in the people. We have to get to that focus, though. We got to be able to focus on the focus, man. Let's make it happen, all right? So again, man, you are, you have been, and you will be under the groove. Peace and prosperity, everybody.
Count the names, count the bodies, count the victory. Cullen Hughes, Hurst, and writing future history. From the Apollo to the borough to the sphere. Where the echo of those Harlem nights still ringing clear. So when they ask what happened in those tenement flats, between the spirituals and where consciousness is at, tell them we transformed suffering to scholarship and song. Tell them we've been telling you we're brilliant all along. The Renaissance will prologue every decade since the sequel. Every black child born's continuation of the people who survived the Middle Passage, survived the Jim Crow laws, and built magnificence from nothing but their vision and their flaws. That's in the sergeant. This is once a less than had this and recitations. Please don't you, I can't stop us. Power sensitive project, the applause for polls. Need your data, tropes, and counsel any problem when the wet just wanna build the season big. Now don't get the pause. It's just the raising up the times. Plead the markets off the main. Make it honor fans. Turn the neck and love the durn. Suffer like a kesha. You were grown to preaching up on side as each alone. Bitch on the shit and untrue seeing vets. Someone the very it's on Gary Land. Be hell in heaven, you see what the Bonavir. You wait talking for the marker, make the key to pull the club and saw the blocks to the single land is carried open stone and keep us looking on my mother. Break your generosity for the he and let the peasant be. It's every time we keep a spawn.